For 68 years, I've been leaving food in the same spot in the Trinity Alps of Northern California. Every Tuesday and Friday without fail, rain or shine, sickness or health. My family thought I was feeding stray dogs. The Forest Service thought I was eccentric but harmless. But 3 weeks ago, at 89 years old, I had a heart attack alone on that mountain trail. And what happened next proved that for nearly 7 decades, I wasn't the one doing the protecting. I was the one being protected. My name is Walter Price, and what I'm about to tell you will change everything you think you know about who's really watching over us in the wilderness. I was born in 1935 in Weaverville, California. My father ran a trading post, and I grew up learning to track, hunt, and read the forest like most kids learn to read books. After serving in Korea, I came home in 1954 and started working for the Forest Service as a backcountry ranger. That meant long patrols, sometimes weeks alone in territory most people never see. I'm telling you this because you need to understand something. I'm not a storyteller. I'm not a cryptozoologist. I spent 40 years with the Forest Service, retiring in 1994 with commendations for wilderness rescue and fire prevention. I'm a man who built his life on observable facts, documented evidence, and the practical knowledge of how to survive in remote terrain. And I'm also a man who, for 68 years, has maintained the most unlikely relationship of my life. One that cost me friendships when rumors started, one that my late wife, Marie, accepted without ever fully understanding, and one that, 3 weeks ago, literally saved my life in a way that still makes my hands shake when I think about it. Winter of 1955 changed everything. What I witnessed that January morning wasn't just my first encounter. It was the beginning of an agreement that neither of us fully understood, but both of us honored for nearly 7 decades. I was on a routine patrol, checking on a remote ranger station after a brutal blizzard. Temperature was minus 12 degrees Fahrenheit, snow was 4 feet deep in places, wildlife was dying. I heard something that stopped me cold, the sound of something large, struggling in obvious distress. The family in crisis found tracks, 18 inches long, leading to a small cave opening. Inside, a female creature, maybe 7 feet tall, with 2 juveniles huddled against her. She was emaciated, the young ones were barely moving, all 3 were dying of starvation. She saw me and made no aggressive move, just pulled her young closer, eyes filled with something I recognized, a mother's terror. I had emergency rations, pemmican, dried fruit, jerky, chocolate bars, military surplus from my Korea days. Set them just inside the cave entrance and backed away. She watched me the entire time, calculating, deciding whether to trust. I returned the next day. Food was gone and they were still alive. For the next 6 weeks until the thaw, I brought everything I could carry. On my 5th visit, I arrived to find the mother standing outside the cave, waiting, not hiding. Waiting. When she saw me, she did something that still gives me chills. She placed one of her young ones, the smaller one, at the cave entrance where I could see it clearly. The juvenile was moving better, had more energy, was going to survive. Then she looked at me and made a sound, low and rumbling, and touched her chest. Then she pointed at me and touched her chest again. I understood. She was saying we are the same. Parent to parent, protector to protector. That wasn't an animal. That was someone expressing gratitude in the only way she could. We've been taught that humans are uniquely capable of gratitude, of recognizing when we've been helped and wanting to return that kindness. But what if that's just human arrogance? What if the capacity for gratitude, for recognizing debt and obligation, exists in any intelligent being? That mother didn't just take my food and disappear. She acknowledged the debt, and for the next 68 years, Her family remembered it. That spring, when the snow melted, they disappeared into the high country. I thought that was the end, but 6 months later, something happened that proved they hadn't forgotten. By September of 1955, I'd almost convinced myself that winter had been a one-time event, extreme circumstances creating an impossible encounter. Then I found the first gift. September 1955. Found a pile of wild mushrooms, valuable chanterelles, arranged on a flat rock near my patrol station. Started leaving food every Tuesday and Friday. Same location, same time. They left gifts in return. Medicinal plants, arrowheads, once a perfect obsidian knife. Saw them only occasionally, maybe twice a year, always at a distance, but evidence of their presence was constant. The original mother eventually brought others, extended family. Population in that territory grew to maybe 8 to 10 individuals. I adapted my offerings, more food, different varieties, learned their preferences. They loved honey, avoided anything with processed sugar. My wife Marie helped without asking questions, baking extra bread every Monday and Thursday. The Forest Service thought I was documenting wildlife feeding patterns for research. The evolution of understanding. By the 1980s, we'd developed a gesture language, simple but effective. They'd leave arrangements of stones or sticks to indicate needs. More food, different location, warning of human presence. Once, they left 3 large branches arranged in an X over my usual drop point. I later learned hunters were camping nearby. They were protecting their food source, but also, I realized, protecting me from discovery. 1987, I'm 52 years old, and I arrive for my Friday delivery to find something new. 4 of them standing in the clearing, including the original mother, now elderly with silver throughout her hair. She approached closer than ever before, maybe 20 feet, and made a sound. Walter. My name. She'd been listening to me talk for 32 years and finally attempted to say my name. I touched my chest and said, Walter, then pointed at her. She touched her own chest and made a sound, Sah-Ra. I'd been calling her Sarah in my mind for years, never expecting she'd confirm it. But she did. We'd given each other names. That's not animal behavior, that's personhood. Think about what 68 years means. That's longer than most human marriages. That's longer than most people work at a single job. For 68 years, through presidential administrations, wars, technological revolutions, the rise of the internet, I kept this one promise. And so did they. We had no contract, no enforcement mechanism, no way to compel each other. We had only trust. And in an age where humans can barely maintain relationships for a few years, I maintained one across species for nearly 7 decades. What does that say about where we've placed our priorities, about what we've lost? But maintaining that trust wasn't always easy. In 1995, something happened that almost destroyed everything we'd built. The mid-90s brought something new to the Trinity Alps, the internet, satellite phones, and with them, treasure hunters. People who'd seen grainy footage online and decided to make their fortune finding proof of Bigfoot. Summer 1995, a group of 5 men with expensive equipment set up camp 2 miles from my feeding location. They had cameras, motion sensors, even tranquilizer rifles, legal for large wildlife management. I was 60, officially retired from the Forest Service with no authority to make them leave. They were on public land, technically doing nothing illegal. The impossible choice. Sarah's family went into hiding, stopped taking the food I left. For 8 weeks, I saw no sign of them, longest absence in 40 years. The hunters became more aggressive, setting bait stations, playing recordings of primate calls. I watched them get closer to finding the family's high country refuge. Had to decide, break my silence and reveal what I knew. or find another way. The coordinated response. I started a campaign of subtle sabotage, moved their trail cameras, scattered their bait, made noise when they were setting up. But I wasn't working alone, I later discovered. Equipment would malfunction in ways I hadn't caused. Food supplies would disappear once their entire camp was surrounded by a perfect circle of large rocks overnight. Sarah's family was helping, protecting our secret together. After 3 months, the hunters gave up, convinced the area was cursed. The night the hunters finally left, I hiked up to the feeding spot, not sure if Sarah's family would ever return. I sat there for hours in the dark, just waiting. Then I heard footsteps, heavy and deliberate. Sarah emerged from the tree line, older now, moving slower, but she came right up to me, closer than she'd ever been, 5 feet away. She reached into the thick fur on her side and pulled out something, handed it to me. It was one of the hunter's trail camera SD cards. She'd been stealing them, preventing them from getting any evidence. Then she touched my hand, her palm against mine, warm and rough and real. She held it there for maybe 10 seconds, and I understood. We protected each other. That's what family does. We define family by blood, by marriage, by law. But what if family is simpler than that? What if family is just who shows up? Who protects you when you're vulnerable? Who remembers you after decades? Who trusts you with their survival? By that definition, Sarah and her kin were more family to me than cousins I haven't spoken to in years. We've created all these complex rules about who counts as family, but maybe we've forgotten the only rule that matters. Family is who stays. For the next 28 years, our routine continued. Tuesday and Friday, like clockwork, even after Marie died, even as I got older and the hike got harder. But 3 weeks ago, everything changed, and I learned the truth about who'd really been taking care of whom all these years. March 17th, 2024. I'm 89 years old. My doctor has been telling me to stop making these trips, but I promised 68 years ago, and I don't break promises. That's the day I learned that Sarah had made a promise too. Tuesday morning, I'm hiking to the feeding spot with my usual supplies. About a quarter mile from the location, I feel it. Crushing chest pain, left arm going numb, shortness of breath. I'm alone, no cell service, never has been in that area. My satellite phone is in my truck. I collapse on the trail, pack scattering, 89 years old and dying in the forest I've loved my whole life. My last clear thought, at least it's here, at least it's in the right place. The rescue. I drift in and out of consciousness. Don't know how long I'm there. Then I feel something. Massive arms lifting me, cradling me like I weigh nothing. My eyes open briefly. It's not Sarah, she'd be over 100, likely dead, but a younger one, maybe her granddaughter, with the same reddish-tinted hair. She's carrying me, moving fast through terrain that would take me hours. Other figures moving with her, 3 or 4 of them, coordinating. The trailhead miracle. I wake up in the hospital in Reading 2 days later. The sheriff tells me a story that doesn't make sense. Hikers found me at the trailhead next to my truck, already called 911. But I collapsed a quarter-mile in, uphill, through dense forest. There were no hikers registered that day. Permit system. My truck keys, which were in my pack, were in my pocket. My satellite phone, also from my pack, was placed in my hand. Someone carried me out, got me to where I could be found, and disappeared. When I was strong enough, I went back to that trailhead with my son-in-law. We hiked to where I'd collapsed. My supplies were still scattered there, but they'd been carefully covered with branches to protect them from animals. And on the flat rock where I usually leave food, there was an arrangement I'd never seen before. Stones in a pattern that took me a while to understand. It was a circle of small stones with one larger stone in the center. The large stone had been carried from somewhere else, had my initials carved into it, crude but deliberate. The message was clear. You're part of the circle. We protect our own. For 68 years, I thought I was the caregiver. I thought I was helping a family survive harsh winters and human threats. I thought I was the one with the power, the one providing protection. But I was wrong. They'd been watching over me the entire time. When I was in my 50s and got turned around in a snowstorm, I found markers, stacks of rocks leading me back to the trail. When I was in my 70s and twisted my ankle, my pack was moved closer to me while I slept. All these years I thought I was protecting them, but they were protecting me. We think humans are the caregivers, the guardians of nature. But what if we've got it backwards? What if we're the fragile ones, stumbling through a world that tolerates us because something else has decided we're worth protecting? I'm 89 years old. The doctors say I can't make those hikes anymore. My heart won't take it. And that breaks something in me because I've kept that Tuesday and Friday appointment for 68 years. But last week my grandson offered to take over. He's 32, strong, knows the trail. I introduced him to the routine, showed him where to leave the food, taught him the gesture language. We went together last Friday, and when we got to the clearing, she was there. Sarah's granddaughter, I think, or maybe great-granddaughter. She looked at my grandson, then at me, then made a gesture I'd never seen before. She touched her eyes, then pointed at me, then pointed at my grandson. I see him. I accept him. The agreement continues. For 68 years, I've wondered why they trusted me, why that mother in the cave decided to let me help. I think I finally understand. It wasn't about me being special. It was about showing up, keeping promises, honoring commitments across decades, treating them not as curiosities or animals or mysteries, but as people trying to survive. They saved my life because I'd spent 68 years proving I'd never endanger theirs. That's not mystical. That's not supernatural. That's just what happens when you keep your promises, even when no one's watching, even when no one would know if you stopped, even when the world thinks you're crazy for trying. The greatest gift they gave me wasn't saving my life 3 weeks ago. It was showing me that trust, real trust, is possible. Even across every boundary we think separates us, even across 7 decades, even between species that supposedly can't understand each other. If this story means something to you, I need you to do something. In the comments, tell me about a promise you've kept, even when it was hard, even when no one was watching. Because that's what this was really about. Not Bigfoot, not mystery, just the simple power of showing up consistently for 68 years. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that trust is still possible, that commitment still matters, that showing up, even in small ways, can change everything. And if you're ever in the wilderness, in the mountains, in the deep forest, remember, you might not be as alone as you think. Something might be watching over you, and maybe, just maybe, that's not a threat. Maybe that's a blessing.